I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand, the screen illuminating the dark room with a soft blue glow. I reached over to silence it, my fingers brushing against the cool glass as I swiped to dismiss the notification. The time reads 6:47 a.m., and I knew I had to get up soon to start my day. As I sat up in bed, the softness of the M. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand, the screen illuminating the dark room with a soft blue glow. I reached over to silence it, my fingers brushing against the cool glass as I swiped to dismiss the notification. The time reads 6:47 a.m., and I knew I had to get up soon to start my day. As I sat up in bed, the softness of the mattress gave way to the firmness of the floor, the texture of the carpet beneath my feet a gentle caress. I yawned, stretching my arms above my head, and swung my legs over the side of the bed. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, enticing me to get out of bed and start my morning routine. I lived with my mom, Karen, and she always made sure to have a pot of coffee ready for me by the time I woke up. It was a ritual we had shared for years, and one that I had grown to appreciate. But as I stood up and began to make my way to the kitchen, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had been building up inside me for weeks. It started when I got my new phone plan a few days ago. I had finally saved up enough money to pay for my own plan, and it felt liberating to be able to make my own decisions about my phone and my life. But as soon as I turned off the location tracking, my mom freaked out. She had always been controlling, using the tracking feature to monitor my every move, and it was suffocating. I knew I had to set boundaries, but I was afraid of how she would react. As I entered the kitchen, the sound of sizzling bacon filled the air, and my stomach growled in response. My mom was already up and cooking breakfast, the smell of scrambled eggs and toast wafting through the air. I poured myself a cup of coffee, the aroma filling my senses as I took a sip. The bitterness of the coffee was a welcome respite from the sweetness of the morning, and I felt a sense of calm wash over me. "Good morning, sweetie," my mom said, as she expertly flipped the bacon in the pan. "How are you doing today?" I took a deep breath, trying to gauge her mood. She seemed calm, but I knew that could change at any moment. "I'm doing okay, Mom," I replied, trying to sound casual. "Just getting ready for the day." My mom nodded, her eyes narrowing slightly as she looked at me. "I was thinking, since you're not tracking your location anymore, we should set up regular check-in times. You know, just to make sure you're safe." I felt a surge of anxiety at her words, my heart racing as I tried to remain calm. "Mom, we've talked about this. I'm an adult, and I can take care of myself. I don't need to be tracked like a child." My mom's expression changed, her face falling as she looked at me with a mixture of concern and anger. "But what if you get in an accident and we don't know where you are?" she asked, her voice rising. "What if something happens to you and we can't find you?" I sighed, feeling a sense of frustration wash over me. We had been over this before, and I knew that she wasn't going to let it go. "Mom, my car has an SOS system, and you're listed as an emergency contact in my phone. If something happens to me, the authorities will be able to contact you." My mom shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. "But that's not the same as being able to track you. What if you're in a situation where you can't call for help? What if you're hurt and can't reach your phone?" I felt a pang of guilt at her words, but I knew that I had to stand firm. "Mom, I understand that you're worried, but you have to trust me. I'm an adult, and I can make my own decisions. If I'm going to be gone for an extended period, I'll make sure to check in with you, but I need you to respect my boundaries and trust me to take care of myself." My mom's face fell, and she looked at me with a mixture of sadness and anger. "I guess if you die, and I just shouldn't give a shit," she said, her voice cold and detached. I felt a surge of emotion at her words, my eyes welling up with tears as I tried to process what she had just said. It was a hurtful thing to say, and it made me realize just how deep-seated her need for control was. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down as I looked at her. "Mom, that's not fair. I'm just trying to set boundaries and take care of myself. I'm not trying to hurt you or push you away." My mom looked at me, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're just being selfish, Ava. You're not thinking about how I feel or what I need. You're just thinking about yourself and what you want." I felt a sense of sadness wash over me as I looked at her. I knew that she wasn't going to understand my perspective, and that our conversation was going to end in a fight. But I also knew that I had to stand up for myself and assert my boundaries. I was an adult, and it was time for me to take control of my life. As we stood there, the tension between us palpable, I couldn't help but think about all the times my mom had used the tracking feature to control me. I thought about the time I was 23, and my phone updated while I was out with a friend, and my mom called the cops because she couldn't track me. I thought about how I had to refuse to give the cops my friend's address, and how my mom had screamed and cried because I wouldn't do what she wanted. It was a painful memory, and one that I had tried to forget. But as I stood there, looking at my mom, I knew that I couldn't forget. I had to remember, and I had to use those memories to fuel my determination to take control of my life. I was an adult, and it was time for me to start acting like one. As the silence between us grew, I knew that I had to make a decision. I could either give in to my mom's demands and continue to let her control me, or I could stand up for myself and assert my boundaries. It was a difficult choice, but I knew what I had to do. I took a deep breath and I began to speak, my voice firm and resolute. "Mom, I understand that you're worried, but I need you to respect my boundaries. I'm an adult, and I can take care of myself. I'm not going to turn the tracking feature back on, and I'm not going to let you control me. I need you to trust me and respect my decisions." My mom looked at me, her eyes flashing with anger, and I knew that our conversation was far from over. But I was ready, and I was determined to stand up for myself, no matter what. Pause 1. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as the events of the past few days replayed in my mind like a broken record. The soft hum of the air conditioner created a gentle vibration that resonated through the bed frame, making the wooden slats creak ever so slightly. I felt a bead of cold sweat trickle down my spine, settling at the base of my neck, as I thought about my mom's reaction to me turning off the location tracking on my new phone. The memory of her voice, laced with a mix of anger and desperation, still echoed in my ears, making my skin crawl. As I tossed the covers aside, the soft sheets rustled against my skin, releasing the faint scent of fresh laundry. My feet dangled in the air, and I felt the cool floor beneath them, the smooth texture of the hardwood a gentle caress on my skin. I stood up, my joints creaking slightly as I stretched my arms above my head, feeling the familiar ache in my shoulders from a night of restless sleep. The room was still shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the faint glow of the alarm clock on my nightstand. I made my way to the kitchen, the soft creak of the floorboards beneath my feet a familiar sound. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee, a reminder of the pot I had brewed the night before. I poured myself a cup, the liquid splashing against the sides of the mug as I added a dash of creamer. The aroma filled my senses, a comforting smell that usually helped to calm my nerves. But today, it only seemed to heighten my anxiety. As I took a sip, the bitter taste hit my tongue, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I thought about my mom's words, the way she had guilt-tripped me into feeling like I was somehow responsible for her anxiety. "I guess if you die, and I just shouldn't give a shit." The words still stung, making my eyes prickle with tears. I felt a lump form in my throat as I thought about the countless times she had used this tactic to control me, to make me feel like I was somehow beholden to her. I walked over to the window, pulling back the curtains to let in a sliver of light. The sky was a deep shade of gray, with clouds that seemed to stretch on forever. The air was heavy with the promise of rain, and I could feel the electricity in the atmosphere, making my skin tingle. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs, and tried to calm my racing thoughts. But my mind kept wandering back to my mom, to the way she had always tried to control me. I thought about the time my phone had updated, and the location tracking had turned off. I had been 23 years old, and I had stayed out later than expected, sleeping over at a friend's house. My mom had called the cops, convinced that I was in danger, and I had been forced to deal with the humiliation of having to explain to the police that I was a grown adult, capable of taking care of myself. The memory still made my face burn with anger and embarrassment. I felt a surge of resentment towards my mom, towards the way she had always tried to manipulate me, to make me feel like I was somehow less than capable. I thought about the countless times she had questioned my decisions, my choices, and my friends, the way she had always tried to dictate who I could and couldn't hang out with, where I could and couldn't go. I felt a cold sweat break out on my palms as I thought about the argument we had had just a few days ago. The way she had freaked out when she realized she couldn't track me anymore. The way she had tried to guilt-trip me into turning it back on. I had stood my ground, reminding her that I was an adult, capable of making my own decisions. But the memory of her words still lingered, making me feel like I was somehow responsible for her anxiety. I took another sip of my coffee, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. I thought about the alternatives I had offered her, the ways we could stay in touch without her needing to track my every move. I had suggested we schedule regular check-in times, that I could update her if my plans changed. But she had refused, insisting that she needed to be able to track me at all times. The ringing in my ears was starting to get louder, a steady hum that seemed to be building in intensity. I felt my heart racing, my pulse pounding in my temples. I knew I had to calm down, to try and rationalize the situation, but it was hard to shake off the feeling of suffocation, the sense that I was being slowly strangled by my mom's constant need for control. I walked over to the couch, collapsing onto the soft cushions as I felt the weight of my emotions bearing down on me. I buried my face in my hands, feeling the tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I thought about the countless times I had tried to set boundaries, to establish a sense of independence. But my mom had always found a way to push back, to make me feel like I was somehow responsible for her happiness. As I sat there, feeling the weight of my emotions, I knew I had to make a change. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for my mom to blow up at me. I needed to find a way to break free, to establish a sense of independence and self-worth. But as I sat there, surrounded by the familiar comforts of my home, I couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty, the sense that I was standing on the precipice of something unknown and terrifying. Pause once I stood in the doorway, my eyes fixed on my mother, Karen, as she paced back and forth in the living room. The soft carpet beneath her feet muffled her footsteps, but the tension in her body was palpable. The air was thick with the scent of freshly brewed coffee, but it did little to calm my racing heartbeat. I could feel the knot in my stomach tightening, like a rope being pulled taut. "Ava, you're being unreasonable," Karen said, her voice laced with a mix of frustration and desperation. "I just want to know that you're safe. What's wrong with that?" I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. The sound of my own heartbeat was like a drumbeat in my ears, pounding out a rhythm that seemed to match the turmoil in my chest. I felt a sense of empowerment rising up within me, a sense of determination that I couldn't let my mother's manipulation control me. "Mom, we've been over this," I said, my voice firm but controlled. "I'm an adult, and I can take care of myself. You can't keep tracking my location like I'm a child. It's not healthy, and it's not right." Karen stopped pacing and turned to face me, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're being selfish, Ava," she said, her voice rising. "You're only thinking about yourself, and not about how I might feel. What if something happens to you? What if you get hurt or lost or—" I felt a surge of emotion, a mix of sadness and frustration. I knew that my mother was scared, that she was coming from a place of fear and worry. But I also knew that her behavior was not okay, that it was suffocating me and eroding my sense of autonomy. "Mom, I understand that you're scared," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "But you have to trust me. I'm not a child anymore. I can take care of myself, and I can make my own decisions. You have to respect my boundaries, and you have to trust me to make safe choices." Karen's face twisted in a scowl, her eyes narrowing. "You're not listening to me, Ava," she said, her voice cold and hard. "You're not taking my concerns seriously. You're just being stubborn and selfish like you always are." I felt a sting from her words, a sense of hurt and betrayal. But I also felt a sense of resolve, a sense of determination. I knew that I had to stand up for myself, that I had to assert my own needs and boundaries. "Mom, I am listening to you," I said, my voice firm. "But I'm also listening to myself. And what I'm hearing is that I need some space, some freedom to make my own choices and live my own life. You have to respect that, and you have to trust me." The room fell silent, the only sound the soft hum of the air conditioner and the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall. I could feel the tension between us, a sense of unresolved conflict that hung in the air like a challenge. And then, suddenly, Karen spoke up. "Fine," she said, her voice cold and hard. "If that's how you want it, then that's how it will be. But don't come crying to me when something happens to you, Ava. Don't expect me to be there to bail you out, because I won't be." I felt a surge of emotion, a mix of sadness and relief. I knew that this was a turning point, a moment of truth in our relationship. I knew that I had to stand up for myself and that I had to be strong. "Mom, I'm not going to come crying to you," I said, my voice firm, "because I'm an adult and I can take care of myself. And even if something does happen to me, I know that I can handle it. I'm strong and I'm capable and I'm not afraid." The room fell silent again, the tension between us palpable. And then, slowly, Karen turned and walked away, leaving me standing alone in the doorway. I felt a sense of empowerment, a sense of freedom. I knew that I had taken a stand, and that I had asserted my own needs and boundaries. And I knew that, no matter what happened next, I would be okay. As I stood there, I felt the knot in my stomach begin to unravel, like a thread being pulled loose. I felt my heartbeat slow, my senses coming back online. I could smell the coffee, rich and bold, and I could hear the sound of the clock ticking away. I could feel the soft carpet beneath my feet and the cool air on my skin, and I knew that I was ready to face whatever came in. I was ready to take control of my own life, to make my own choices and forge my own path. I was ready to be an adult, to be strong and capable and independent, and I was ready to let go of the past, to release the guilt and the shame and the fear that had held me back for so long. As I stood there, I felt a sense of clarity, a sense of purpose. I knew that I had a long road ahead of me, a road filled with twists and turns and challenges. But I also knew that I was ready to face whatever came in. I was ready to be me, to be Ava Morales, a strong and capable and independent woman. And I was ready to take on the world, one step at a time.
Hello, I'm Dr. Julian Reed, a clinical psychologist with a specialization in family dynamics and interpersonal relationships. As I sit here, reviewing the case files of Ava Morales and Karen Morales, I am struck by the complexity and depth of their situation. The emotional currents that run through their story are multifaceted, and it is my task to unravel and analyze them, in the hopes of gaining a deeper understanding of the psychological underpinnings at play. From what I have gathered, Ava and Karen are mother and daughter, respectively, with a relationship that is fraught with tension, conflict, and a deep-seated sense of hurt. The details of their story are still emerging, but it is clear that their bond has been tested by a series of traumatic events, which have left an indelible mark on their emotional lives. As I delve deeper into their situation, I notice that Ava, the mother, appears to be struggling with feelings of guilt, anxiety, and a deep-seated sense of responsibility. Her actions, or rather her inactions, have contributed to the emotional distress that Karen is experiencing. Ava's behavior suggests a pattern of avoidance, a reluctance to confront the issues that are plaguing their relationship, and a tendency to prioritize her own emotional well-being over that of her daughter. Karen, on the other hand, is grappling with feelings of anger, resentment, and a profound sense of betrayal. Her emotional pain is palpable, and it is clear that she is struggling to come to terms with the trauma that she has experienced. Her behavior is marked by a sense of defiance, a need to assert her independence, and a deep-seated desire to break free from the emotional shackles that bind her to her mother. As I analyze their situation, I am struck by the cyclical nature of their conflict. Ava's avoidance and Karen's anger are locked in a delicate dance, each fueling the other and creating a sense of emotional gridlock. This cycle of conflict is further complicated by the presence of unresolved trauma, which has left both women with deep emotional scars. From a psychological perspective, it is clear that Ava and Karen are both struggling with attachment issues. Ava's inability to confront her own emotional pain has created a sense of emotional unavailability, which has left Karen feeling unheard, unseen, and unvalidated. Karen's anger and resentment, in turn, have created a sense of distance, which has further exacerbated the emotional disconnection between them. As their therapist, my goal would be to help Ava and Karen break free from this cycle of conflict, and to create a safe, supportive environment in which they can begin to heal and rebuild their relationship. This would involve a process of gentle exploration, as we work to uncover the underlying causes of their emotional pain, and to develop a deeper understanding of the psychological dynamics that are at play. Through a combination of individual and joint therapy sessions, I would work with Ava and Karen to develop a greater sense of emotional awareness, and to cultivate the skills and strategies necessary to manage their emotions and to communicate more effectively. This would involve a process of education as we explore the complexities of attachment theory and the ways in which trauma can impact our emotional lives. Ultimately, my goal would be to help Ava and Karen develop a more secure, more resilient attachment style, one that is marked by a sense of mutual respect, trust, and emotional intimacy. This would require a willingness on both their parts to confront their emotional pain, to take risks, and to be vulnerable with each other. It would also require a commitment to the therapeutic process and a willingness to work through the challenges and setbacks that inevitably arise. As I conclude my analysis, I am reminded of the complexity and the depth of the human experience. Ava and Karen's story is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit and the capacity for growth, healing, and transformation that lies within us all. As their therapist, I would be honored to be a part of their journey and to help them navigate the twists and turns of their emotional landscape as they work to rebuild their relationship and to create a brighter, more hopeful future for themselves.